Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daryl Guberman. I'm really accruing a large audience behind me. In fact, today we have a very special guest. We have Mr. Jim Tassett from Lockheed because I'm going to mention him as well. This is a deposition for those lawyers out there who may be watching this. This is my deposition. My name is Daryl Guberman. I am the CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. We've been open since August of 2011. We've been working now for 13 years. We've been assisting companies in quality consultation and ISO certification and all its derivatives like AS9100, etc. My education, I've said it before, I'm not going to repeat it, but I will say this. My background is aerospace, medical implants, medical materials, printing, and plastic distribution, where we dealt with every industry under the sun. This video today is about, and here they are. You have Mr. Garrett Graves, chairman of the subcommittee on aviation. You have Chairman Sam Graves, who's in the transportation and infrastructure. Sam is he's a Republican from Missouri. And you have a Republican, Garrett Graves, from Louisiana. Today, Garrett Graves, Louisiana, Sam Graves, Missouri, questioned the FAA about Boeing while financially tied to Lockheed Martin. Yes, they are. They are financially tied. I'll show you one of their payoff lists. As you can see, the state is Missouri, and there they are, right there. And you will probably say, Daryl, because that's what you sound like. Many people sound like Davy and Goliath at all claymation, because that's what I hear many times when they ask me such questions. Daryl, it's only a little bit of money. Only a little bit. Well, it doesn't take much to grease the wrist to sign an appropriation for Lockheed Martin. So we're going to continue on. First off, I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, first off, we did some research, had some of my associates do some research. So we're going to go through Louisiana first. To Garrett Graves, there's 8 representatives in Louisiana, a total of about 4.6 million people. That means each representative has to watch over 575,000 constituents. This is about disbursements on how much and what year that Garrett got financially compensated by Lockheed Martin. 2019, actually 2015, he was elected in 2015. He got $1,000. 2019, 1,000. 2020, 1,000. And 2015 to 18, or actually 2016 to 18, he got nothing. And 2020 to 2022, he got nothing. You also go to Missouri, where you have Samuel Graves. There's a total of 10 representatives, 6 million people. That means each representative has to watch over 600,000 people, which is mathematically, statistically impossible that your voice will ever get heard. And I will tell you for a fact, I called up, as a matter of fact, Sam Graves' office, wanting to get him some information, because most of these people are not privy to what is the grassroots of quality and manufacturing, especially in the aerospace industry. They just make questions. People gave them questions to ask, to pose them during a Senate or congressional investigation, and they don't know. So I called his office. The guy on the phone, I'm not going to mention his name, guy on the phone says, you're from Connecticut? I'm too busy in the office, we can't answer you. I said, whoa. I said, this is the United States of America. When you and I, business owners, fellow citizens, when we pay our taxes to the federal government, we're subsidizing their salaries. So no matter what state you're in, I'm in Connecticut, I should be able to call it New Jersey, whoever they are, Kerry, whatever, it's Booker or whatever. Florida, California, any one of our states, they should at least listen. But you know what they have? They have inept people in their offices. Most of them are. They're told to blow the constituent off and send them a form thereafter. So I did that. I said, we're in the United States of America. And by the way, he should answer me because I've got a lot of data here. He's got nothing. They ask these questions, and I was laughing yesterday at so many of these people asking questions that really don't make sense. And you're going to find out. After I show this to you, you're going to find out that my representation in Connecticut are China sympathizers. Rosa DeLauro, Jim Himes, Chris Murphy, and Richard Blumenthal. We have the documentation, but let me just say this. We're going to bring out the first person here. She's been in office so long that I think she knew Roosevelt. No, maybe Abraham Lincoln. No, maybe George Washington. Hold on. This is Rosa DeLauro. We have Richard Blumenthal. And this guy back there, Sam's Sam's aide in his office said, call your representative. I have no confidence in them. I'm going to show you why. There he is, Chris Murphy. Oy vey. And here you go, Jim Himes. So let me give you a little bit of history about this, ladies and gentlemen. And before I do this, this is February 7th, 2024. This is my deposition, and I am giving it in front of all of these gentlemen here as my witness. February 7th, 2024. In 2009, Lockheed Martin, by the way, Jim Tassett, got hacked by no other than China. In 2012, a division of United Technologies got hacked by China. In 2015, Lockheed Martin goes to buy Sikorsky aircraft. And in the Connecticut Mirror, it says this. Let me turn it around so you can read in the yellow, though. With China's okay, Lockheed Martin to close on Sikorsky purchase. And this is a part in the article. If you want, I'll gladly send it to you. My telephone number is 203-556-1493 or Daryl, D-A-R-Y-L, T-Q-R-S at yahoo.com. And it said, but Connecticut lawmakers praise Lockheed Martin for clearing its last regulatory hurdle. They basically said this. This is what it should have said and been deciphered or fractionated down to. Connecticut lawmakers Rosa DeLauro, Richard Blumenthal, Chris Murphy, and Jim Himes praise our number one military contractor, Lockheed Martin, for working with communist China. So I'm going to say this, gentlemen, Sam and Garrett, and by the way, Lockheed Martin, you're going to find out through my presentation, was sitting on the International Accreditation Form located in Delaware, which is a repository for national and international accreditation bodies. You got that, boys? And what happened is this. Between 2015 and 21, the leadership was changed to a communist Chinese national who's been involved with our quality since 1994. So when Lockheed was there, they already got hacked. So of course China's going to say as an international regulator, they've already got them raped, their technology raped. And they were sitting on the IAF. At the time, this guy was running the IAF. And he also was the head of the China National Accreditation Services that certified the suspect lab in Wuhan, China. We have all of it. So this is my deposition, ladies and gentlemen. And it's going to be long. I'm going to warn you beforehand. But when you see this, you will see the scam of Joe Batia, the CEO of the American National Standards Institute. For that's all they have on their board are flunkies. Yes, and we can prove it all. We do not lie at my age, ever. And they took over the American National Accreditation Board in 2018. You will see that too. I say this because of my integrity. For Sophocles said, it is better to fail with honor than to succeed by fraud. And David Foster Wallace said, the truth will set you free, but not until it is finished with you. And we are not finished with you. This will be an education, Mr. Graves and Mr. Graves, Missouri and Louisiana. This will be an education that I hope you utilize, because right now, you're in Lockheed's pocket. How could you ask the FAA questions when the FAA also sits on ANSI's board? And here we go. In 2013, I gave a speech at the American Society for Quality. At that time, the ASQ owned the American National Accreditation Board 50%, and ANSI owned it 50%, the American National Standards Institute. Dave Levy, Region 3 Director, said, we have no problem. In fact, ANAB supports you, sir. Yeah, supports me. You think I'm going to join a fraudulent company like that? Oh, you got to be kidding me. And it is. I say these words not to malign them, not to defame them. These words I state are true. For as Thomas Paine stated, and this is my mantra, I love the man who can smile in trouble, who can gather strength from distress and grow brave by reflection. 'Tis the business of little minds to shrink, and he whose heart is firm and conscience approves his conduct shall pursue his principles unto death. Thomas Paine. Randy Dory at the time, you will see him very shortly handing over leadership of the IAF to the Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, Communist Chinese national. He invited us to join in 2016. Why? Because we were exposing the dirty little secrets of ANSI, ANAB, Boeing, and all the rest of them. And it is disgusting. And they sit. ANSI has all the federal agencies and corporations on their board, a predominance, a plethora of them. And there it is. ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation having federal agencies and corporations on board. I'm not going to go into the litany, but I'm going to tell you just the bare facts. You have Randy Dory in 2015. He was the vice president of ANAB, the chairman and principal on the IAF tax report. As I said, the International Accreditation Forum is a repository for all national and international accreditation bodies. ANSI and ANAB are also underwriters for the IAF and also the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation in Australia. He handed over leadership to Zhao Jinwu. Zhao Jinwu is, at the time, was also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services in Beijing, China. He is also mandated by his country of origin to take our data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. You have him here standing in Wuhan, China. Yes, Wuhan, nevertheless, and he handed them a quality certification. We're going to come up here. I think Pamela Sale is in the wings. She's the vice president of accreditation for laboratory. She said under deposition that from one laboratory to another, and she was the, of course, the vice president of quality certification for laboratory. She said from one laboratory to another, they lack protocol. It's ad hoc, basically. So when she said that, and people were saying the lab released the virus, it's very plausible that what she said was the confession of that, since you have laboratory accreditation out of control. To compromise this even more, gentlemen, as I say this, is that in 2018, some people went over to Wuhan, China, some specialists from the United States. We have the article. It'll be down below. Everything will be down in the description. If not, please contact me, as I said. These specialists went over there, and they said the scientists there were actually almost crying in the sense that said, we need technical people. We need technicians that are properly trained with these viruses that we're dealing with. They're very deadly. Well, that fell on dead ears. And in 2019, after COVID was escaping, the CDC came out in May 2019, with the training document for no other than virology lab in Wuhan, China. No other lab was mentioned, just Wuhan, China. And going down, it states that the most important part of any well-run lab are properly trained technicians. You can find it. It's going to be down below this video. If not, it's in one of the articles. We do have the actual CDC document from 2019. You have Randy over here congratulating Zhao Jinwu for his, 1994 history and praising him and complimenting him. The worst thing is, gentlemen, in 2017, Randy was being advertised in the Department of Homeland Security while his buddy Zhao Jinwu was, and Zhao Jinwu was mandated to take data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. So he was being advertised through ANAB because they were offering a specialized certification. You go deeply further, you'll have a Phil Matheson, who's a quality assessment guy, whatever his title is. Anyway, he's getting financed. You'll look him up. Phil Matheson, $262,000. At that time, it was a royalty payment, which means he didn't have to pay taxes. You also have the factor that the IAF and ILAC are both sister organizations. Remember this too. ANSI, ANAB are underwriters. They take full legal responsibility. And any accreditation body that's on IAF is equivalent to an ANAB, an ANSI ANAB accreditation. You have ANAB that sits there. You have 7 different registrars that sit on ANSI. There's probably about 50 of them, 60 of them. But these are important ones, I guess, because there's 7 of them that sit right over by the accreditation body that they use, ANAB, on their certificates. As a matter of fact, Intertek is the registrar of choice, I guess, for Spirit Aerosystems, where you have Mr. Patrick Shanahan, who was the Deputy Secretary of Defense. When asked about the F-35 program, he said it's fucked up. He was the only one that had the chutzpah to tell the truth, not just about Lockheed, but about their quality. But maybe he had a crystal ball stating, it's fucked up, but so is Boeing's. ANSI ANAB have 10 different registrars in China that can issue an ANAB accredited, ANSI ANAB accredited certificate. Here we go. ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. You have the factor that sitting over by them on the IAF, which at the time was controlled by communist China from 2015 to 21. You have these 2 organizations or countries that sit there, and they are equivalent to ANSI ANAB. So that means, and you have also Hamas, okay? These guys, Iran, and I'm not saying this about the people of those 2 countries. They're too, they're in the middle of this bullshit. I'm saying it about the leadership, okay? You have Iran, who is supporting Hamas, most recently killing 3 American soldiers. And what do you have to say about that? The Graves brothers, or Graves, I don't know whether you're brothers or not. Maybe you're just related some way, somehow. Maybe you're not. You just happen to have a similar last name. But what do you say? How can you say this? That if anything happens in Iran with, or Pakistan with quality, ANSI and ANAB are responsible. And to bring the integrity, the honesty, and the truth out, here is the actual government contract that illustrates to you that ANSI ANAB are underwriters, which means they take full responsibility, legal responsibility for anything that happens within the system or within the product. Do you hear that, Jim Tassett? Do you hear that, David Calhoun? But you will find out that they're all in bed together. Hold on a sec. Here's Boeing now. Let's give Boeing a first-rate hello. Here he is. On their portal, okay, remember that ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. On their supplier portal, I took a picture of it. It's there. In fact, we did it again today. And it states that ANSI ASQ National Accrediting Board, ANAB, or an internationally equivalent, which you saw could be Iran. I changed it when I put this form together. Those are the exact words that state ANSI ASQ, but I changed it to ANSI ANAB because ASQ, it's all the same. Boeing sits on ANSI's board. Okay. In 2002, gentlemen, Boeing came out with a supplier notification that said this, and I'm going to show it to you, and it'll be very easy to understand. This is the product that we manufacture for Boeing. We become AS9100. Okay. We become an AS9100 certified, but it's got to be ANSI ANAB because it's required. As I say, even on this notification for the supplier, it states at the bottom, it must be ANSI ANAB. States on their freaking supplier portal must be ANSI ANAB. So you hand this into Boeing. Boeing checks it off, doesn't send inspection. They may do a sample inspection to some of them, but they hand over their part. No source inspection. Nobody has to come on board, and that's it. Now here goes a good one. The FAA gave regulatory authority to Boeing from 2009 to present. And by the way, this goes from 2002 to present, okay? To hand in your parts and let's go to town. So you have aircraft out there that are basically compromised with quality issues. They've had some of their employees say, there's stuff going out the door that still have quality issues. And here it is. And let me just read you the first sentence. The FAA increased the authority of Boeing's commercial airplanes division to self-certify its own aircraft. Isn't that nice? Basically, they became a regulatory authority. So, by the way, Sam Graves and Garrett, David Calhoun sat on Boeing's board in 2009. And at that time, when they were given regulatory authority by the FAA, which meant that when he became the CEO, he became an FAA administrator. Isn't that tender? You also see that Boeing sits not only on the directors of management, okay, but they also sit on the ANSI-ANAB Management Systems Accreditation Council, which grants, suspends, and withdraws accreditation of certification bodies, of registrars, like I showed you, Intertech, BSI, etc. They would, if something happened in the system, they can have authority to pull the certificate. Did they ever do it? Well, you take a look at their poor quality. They never did it. Now, to make matters worse, Boeing was caught fudging documentation. Yes, isn't that a tender moment in a fudging world? Maybe they learned it from the FAA, because we have the FAA in here too, and they require ANSI-ANAB as well with the same verbiage on their contract that Boeing has. Isn't it nice? Maybe they learned how to fudge it from the FAA, since at the time when these items happened, they were an FAA regulator. Boeing was. In fact, most recently, and I use this all the time in my videos because I am a composite specialist, quality control guy. Composites being Kevlar, boron, graphite, fiberglass, metal matrix composites. I don't want to give you narcolepsy. But in their composite facility that produces the V-22 Osprey parts, they were caught fudging documentation on autoclave cycles. I was involved with aerospace. You don't want to fuck around with time, temperature, and pressure, because if one of those are off, when you're doing a compaction and a cure for composites, you can have, because of voids in the process, because of time, temperature, and pressure, one of those may be off. You may have a failure of that part, and you're going to have loss of aircraft, loss of pilot. You have the Society for Engineers on board that handles all the paperwork for the aerospace community. You also have the IAQG, which runs the online aerospace supplier information systems. What that does is, let me educate you, is that you put in your certificate, they put you on the computer as long as you're ANSI-ANAB accredited, because we tried to get our business on there. They said, we can't accept that, you're not ANAB. No, what do you want to be? Look at what Dave Calhoun's going through. And this guy over here, Jim Tassett, after their 801st F-35, they still have quality issues. After 801, couldn't they reduce it a little bit? Anyway, what it does is you give them your certificate. Boeing has access to it. Lockheed does. They look it up, see that you're ANSI-ANAB accredited, because that's what Lockheed also requires. And just send in that's another way for them not to send an inspection, do a source inspection, and it takes, they downsize. It's called, you know what it's called? It's called cost-cutting initiatives. So you have this IAQG, and in 2003, ANSI, in combination with the IAQG, came out with this little tiny heads-up 22. And I want to ask you, gentlemen, is this about quality? Here it goes. 4.2. An AS9100 certified organization does not have an option to be excluded from the OASIS database. 4.3, remember, OASIS is for Online Aerospace Systems Information Systems. It's not like you're going there with your camel to drink in the pond over there, drink in the pond and get some dates. It doesn't work that way. Maybe only with Moses. I don't know. Anyway, if an AS9100 certified organization refuses to be entered into the OASIS database, for example, refuses to pay database fees, their AS9100 certification shall be revoked. And it says it over here too on PRI. And this is an organization that only issues ISO certifications in all derivatives, but they also are the only company that does NADCAP. And NADCAP is the certification for special processes like prime, paint, heat treat, welding, non-destructive testing. You also have the FAA. And here goes the FAA. This is great. This is an actual FAA contract that we kept because we knew we were going to have to use it, okay? We knew it right off the bat, later on down the line. It states in the requirements, you remember what the Boeing supplier portal said. Let me read it to you. This is Boeing's. Certification body is accredited for these management systems by ANSI ASQ National Accrediting Board, ANAP, or internationally equivalent. On the FAA, it states the contractor must be accredited by ANSI, ASQ, National Accrediting Board, or equivalent. Does that sound the same? Sounds the same to me. Maybe that's where they learned how to fudge. It's from the FAA, because their contract requirements sound just like the Boeing supplier portal, doesn't it? And now let me read you this. This is even better. These are the requirements for qualification. The FAA will have final approval of auditors assigned to work this contract. That means if you don't like Joe Schmo and he's coming in, you say, no, I want Jim over here because Jim is easier, or Jack is easier. Let's get Jack in here. He could do it. That means that that's not an audit. That's picking. That means stacking the deck for an audit. And here's an actual certification for FAA, and it's ANAB accredited, and their registrar is ABS Global. And I know that's a 2014 cert, but nevertheless, I'm showing this to the public. You also have the Department of Transportation. Now, Jim Tassett, we go for you. Here it is. Lockheed Martin sits right over by everybody else. FAA, DOD, DOJ, FBI. In fact, you have to laugh. I'm sorry, gentlemen, when Christopher Wray says, we must maintain vigilance over China. Yet between 2015 and 21, his organization, because of ANSI membership, was sort of sitting by China on the IAF. So here you go. And by the way, a lot of these government contractors and also federal agencies, they got hacked. By China, no less. So that. To make matters worse, here you go. This is from 2018 when Zhao Jinwu was still in power. Lockheed Martin sat there on the IF through their membership on the IAQG, and they were an associate member, which meant they voted on policy. So let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen, business owners, my fellow friends in back, since they sat on the IAF right over by Pakistan and Iran, maybe at that time, I think Marilyn Houston was a CEO. I think she got caught writing an email about we got to sell more missiles for more profitability. You got these guys sitting there, and they're an associate member. You know, the IQG and Lockheed is. So couldn't they vote them off? And this is the letter that we just received from Lisa Gross, ethics officer. And remember, the IF was taken over by China. We wrote a letter to try to explain to them that you're going into a place where communist China is, and their China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. I guess Lockheed, I'm sorry, Jim Tassett, but on a scale of 1 to 10, you're about a 3. And that's before Jim Tassett. I hope it's a little bit different now, but it isn't. Because here you are, your leadership is still in the shitter. 801 ships, and you're still producing crap. Also, your LCS Littoral battleship. I hate to tell you. If you guys do not utilize the talents and abilities of me, and I don't see this conceitedly, I say it with a fact, okay? We can get the job done. We don't play golf, maybe miniature golf because I'm a short guy, but we don't play golf because he who plays golf putts. And that's a joke, inside joke. But here we go. This is from Lisa Gross, ethics officer. And this was after they got taken over, the IAF, by China. This is from 2015. This is what she says. In order to meet our customer requirements, Lockheed Martin deals with entities that are certified through the International Accreditation Form. Your company is not a register of the IAF, and therefore your accreditation is not recognized by Lockheed Martin. Let me go further. We have customers right now that are supplying to Lockheed. That's a bunch of bullshit. But the funniest thing is, here you are. They sit on the IF. So don't you think that's improper that she's telling us? That's like a monopoly. On top of it, I showed you that Lockheed Martin sits on ANSI ANAB's board. So it's stacked. The deck is stacked. And here we go. Take a good look at this. This comes off one of their procedures. And I know it's 2012, but it's still just as good today as it was then. This came right out of Lockheed procedure in 2012. They would not allow our company, as you see, Lisa Gross's letter and heard, to certify any of their subcontractors. Remember, too, they sat on the China-led IAF as an associate member that can vote on policy. They also sit on ANSI members of management, very close to the accreditation body ANAB, the registrars that certify Lockheed must use. Is this kosher to have ANAB in a government contract procedure? I thought it must go out for bid, and it isn't. On top of it, we have an actual government contractor in the beginning of the project. This is from 2013. Why I bring this forward is because this came out of 2013 Inspector General document. Just let me read this to you, ladies and gentlemen, and Jim Tassett. The F-30, and this also goes for Pratt & Whitney's engine that they supply to the F-35. The F-35 program did not sufficiently implement or flow down technical and quality management system requirements to prevent the fielding of non-conforming hardware and software. This could adversely affect aircraft performance, reliability, maintainability, and ultimately program cost. Lockheed Martin Company and its subcontractors did not follow AS 9100 quality management system practices. And I will tell you something. If you had my company in there with your subcontractors and suppliers, we would have done a damn good job. And you wouldn't have, after your 801st ship, all these all these escapes and quality issues. The problem, though, as you can see, is Lockheed and Boeing sit over by the federal agencies and the corporations, and there you go. The funniest thing is that between the Lockheed Sikorsky Boeing SP-1 Defiant, also the Bell, I tell you the Bell as well, they already got their data. You guys got their data taken in an exposition about 2 years ago. They already have the models of these aircraft. And the last thing I'm going to say is this. When you hear of IAF or ILAC or IAQG, IAF means it always fails. ILAC, another company that ANSI, ANAB is an underwriter for in Australia, is laboratory accreditation credible. The IAQG is aircraft quality. Oh my God, IAQG is aircraft quality good. It is not. And it falls upon Joe Batia. He is a terrible representation of a quality organization. If you want to call this defamation, be my guest, Joe, because you're involved with the American Bar Association, so I must laugh. As a lawyer of 40 years has told me in an email, and I have that, he said, Daryl, state and federal court are no more than blue smoke and mirrors. And remember this, as Sophocles said. I'd rather lose with honor than to win with fraud. And I thank you. 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS at yahoo.com.